I'm Marianne Gawain, President of the League of Women Voters of Monterey County. Welcome all. Welcome to members and visitors. And to those of you viewing this later on video, you're welcome too, but if you join us in real time, you get to ask questions. So come for the real thing. Before we introduce today's presenters, I'd like to thank Bev Bean for publicity and Bob Evans for being our technical director and Tama for organizing the program. We are in a very busy phase. We still have some work that we're doing about redistricting. And Tama is one of the people who's been working very hard on that, actually. But we are really gearing up for the June primaries and looking ahead to the November election as well. We have voter registration education efforts going on, including youth outreach at various high schools and colleges locally. And we welcome people who would like to be a part of that. We are already coordinating a number of forums for candidates in various races. And we're working with other community groups, which is very satisfying to have that collaboration going. We also can use assistance with those programs. What else are we doing in that way? We are going to be working at the polls. So a little bit of training required for that. And if you're a poll worker for the league at one of our sites, the number of hours required is really very modest. So that might be a nice way for someone to dip toes into the water. So busy time. And then Tama, you will introduce our speakers. And also, do you have instructions for us about how we can pose questions?
What we'd like to do today is if you didn't post your question in advance, please use the chat, and Beverly Bean will be monitoring the chat and help me field questions from there.
Okay, so chat. Very good.
Please.
All right, well, Tama, take it away.
Thank you. I have two guest speakers here today that I've really enjoyed meeting over the last bit of time as we prepared for this. Guest speaker Jana Falk is the recycling coordinator at Salinas Valley Recycles, known as SVR. That team has a big vision for a future without landfills, trying to work themselves out of the landfill job. And to achieve this, we must all think, act, and plan sustainably as individuals, businesses, and communities. Jenna enjoys engaging with the public to share the vision of a cleaner future. She holds a BS in Earth Systems, Science, and Policy with a concentration in watershed systems from California State University, Monterey Bay. The fellow guest speaker, Kristen O'Hara, joined the Monterey Regional Waste Management District as Communications and Public Education Manager just at the beginning of this year. Prior to that, she spent over 11 years with Waste Management, where she managed Monterey County and King City franchises, directed all public education and outreach activities, developed the community cleanup program, and created the first organics collection program in Monterey County. Ms. O'Hara holds a BA in Environmental Studies, History of Art, and Visual Culture from the University of California, Santa Cruz. I've picked up something in our chat to add to the introduction. Margie Kay has noted that there is a Monterey County Illegal Dumping and Litter Abatement Task Force, and that Jen and Kristen are both members, and the task force has achieved a great deal. So on that note, Jana, I understand you're going to start the presentation.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, and you can see just the slide, not the speaker notes. Yes, perfect. All right, so I'm Jana Falk, the recycling coordinator for Salinas Valley Recycles, and I'm here with Kristen O'Hara, the communications and public education manager at Monterey Regional Waste Management District. Today, we're going to discuss managing waste in Monterey County. I know it's super fascinating, but we'll do our best to keep it interesting and engaging. I may not be able to view the chat as we go, so Kristen and Tama, please chime in if if anything comes up that we should stop and discuss. So,
Will do. Thanks, Jana.
So today we're going to go over the facilities that are two different locations, the new organics regulations, recycling, a little bit on plastic legislation, household hazardous waste, and additional resources.
Great, thank you, Jenna. And today we'll be co-presenting between Jenna and I. So just to keep it interesting, hold your attention. So again, thank you for the warm welcome. My name is Kristen O'Hara, and I wanted to give you a picture of where I actually work. If you've ever been to the Marina landfill, also known as the Monterey Regional Waste Management District, you can see here, we're located right in there in Marina off the dunes. Thank you for pointing that out. And if you've ever been to the Last Chance Mercantile or brought loads of your trash or waste to the facility, you've likely seen how beautiful our location is. We're surrounded by ag fields and we have the coast right out our window. So that's where we're located. Here is a map of the Monterey Regional Waste Management District boundaries. Our entity is commonly referred to in short as the district. And so just as I mentioned the district, we're talking about the yellow area, which ranges from the northern end of Monterey County, which extends from Moss Landing all the way down the coastline to Big Sur. And we've operated this landfill since 1951. To start us off, here's a look back in time to waste disposal in Pacific Grove in the early 1900s. This is actually Lover's Point, and at the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the ocean. And believe it or not, at this time, discards were transported by horse and wagon, literally dumped into the ocean, something that is unfathomable by today's standards. We've come a long way. The good news is that the district is well positioned in terms of infrastructure needed to implement a new law called SB 1383, which we'll talk about today. Something that many cities across California are currently grappling with, how they're going to comply. And this is related to food waste going into the green cart. The district's infrastructure places all of our jurisdictions in a good position to meet the mandate. And so we'll talk a little bit about that right now. The windrow composting at the district is operated by Keith Day Company. They are an operator that we lease the land to. And essentially the program started with yard waste composting in 1990. We've had a successful food scrap composting program since 2008. We've had much of the compost processing equipment already in place, so we don't need to invest in more infrastructure. In the material we receive from residential customers as part of this new program to accept food scraps in the green cart will be slightly different than before. Keith Day is currently working to add elements to process and pre-screen the contaminants in the residential composting before it's processed. So items that shouldn't go into the green cart. And again, Jenna is going to cover this in some future slides. And turn it back over to Jenna.
All right, so Salinas Valley Recycles, officially we are Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority, is made up of the tan portion on the map. We manage 3 closed landfills, 2 transfer stations, and the only open landfill remaining on the eastern portion of Monterey County at Johnson Canyon in Gonzales. And so our landfill serves over 270,000 people. And so when you throw something away in our service area, this is where it goes. Last year, we landfilled or buried 462 million pounds of waste. That's approximately 5 pounds of waste tossed every day per person, or almost like throwing away a backpack every single day. We estimate that at least half of that trash was recyclable or divertible, meaning that we are landfilling material that could be used for something else, or more than 230 million pounds of material that could be used for something else. So waste is only waste if we waste it. Construction of our new landfill cell, which is a very big lined hole in the ground, began in March 2019 and is now complete and in use. Over 400,000 cubic yards of soil was dug out and moved to make space for our garbage. At the bottom of the big hole is a protective layer of clay, a bentonite fiber, and a barrier topped with impermeable plastic liner, which is that black plastic in the photo. And these layers work together to seal the bottom of the landfill to prevent any leachate, or what we lovingly call garbage juice, from leaking into subsurface soils and groundwater. So based on current garbage disposal tonnage, this landfill cell will be full in just 6 years. And that's 1.2 million tons, or 200-foot tall pile of garbage, roughly the height of 20 school buses. So the construction costs $5 million for the cell, meaning as a community, we're spending roughly $825,000 per year to bury our garbage. And that doesn't include the lifetime managing of this mountain of garbage. Johnson Canyon Landfill only has about 35 to 40 years left of capacity. We have 4 more additional cells to build and expand. And as a society, we need to think about what happens to the material in our garbage cart after it's emptied at our curb. If we don't reduce our waste production, our cost for disposal will only increase, and we'll have to invest in new technologies to handle our waste locally. So thinking about that, and Salinas being part of the salad bowl of the world, we have historically accepted literal tons of produce at our facility. Seeing the volume of packaged product going to waste and not utilized for beneficial use, Salinas Valley Recycles took action and received a grant from Cal Recycle to increase organics diversion for a depackager machine and a compost system. So here you see a picture of a typical load of packaged material from a cooler or packaging facility. That material comes to us when it didn't make it to market for a number of reasons. Either it's the expiration date, the specs weren't met, whatever reason. And we do receive recalled material as well, but our system receives truckloads full every single day, regardless of recalls. The depackager is the machine in the middle, the gray and yellow machine, and it spits out an organic slurry that we call salsa verde that goes out to the mixer, which mixes some of the slurry and ground up fibers, ground up yard waste to then be composted. So a little quick recap on the depackager. Packaged food goes in, it separates it out into a slurry, and then the plastic product comes out. This is the Scott's Equipment Turbo T30. It can do 10 tons per hour or 80 tons per day, and it creates a 99% clean stream of organics, which is pretty great because if we can't separate out the plastics, we can't do anything with this material except for bury it. And this is our aerated static pile system. So once the hauler picks up your food waste from your business or the yard waste combined with food scraps at home, they bring it here to our new compost facility that has this aerated static pile compost system once it's all ground up and cleaned. So we mix the food waste with the yard waste material and place it on the pad for composting. The big blue teal tubes blow air into the compost facility to help maintain aeration throughout the compost process. So I've been talking about compost and waste diversion, but why? Why does it matter? Our climate is changing and California is taking action to reduce this impact. The new regulations of SB 1383 are set up to focus on that. So speaking of change, the Earth's temperature has been changing at an ever increasing rate. While the infographic of the worldwide extreme temperatures plays, notice the small graph in the top corner, and that's the overall global average temperature. You may be thinking, how the heck does this relate to food? Well, food can have a very large carbon footprint, and the size of that food print has a lot to do with where leftover scraps end up. California has been proud and bold leader in pursuing environmental policies to reduce climate change and address sources that cause it. Those policies have mostly focused on reducing emissions of CO2, the most significant long-term driver of climate change. These short-lived climate pollutants are the most harmful emissions to both human health and global climate change. So methane is created when organics break down in anaerobic environments without air, such as in a landfill. And methane is 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So while methane doesn't remain in our atmosphere as long as carbon dioxide, it packs a punch in a much more significant way. So 1383's main goal is to reduce organics going to landfill, to reduce that methane emission. And the goals are a reduction in 75% of statewide organics going into the landfill by 2025, based on the 2014 baseline levels. And then the other big portion of this regulation is to increase food recovery and ensure that people are fed instead of landfills. So we want to increase food recovery by 20%. So what is organic waste? It includes food waste, which includes pre and post-consumer food scraps like fruits and vegetables, cheese, etc. Organics are also green waste, all of your yard trimmings, grass, leaves, branches, and then clean wood waste like pallets or lumber that's not painted or pressure treated can all be turned into compost. So why organic waste? The short answer is California still throws away a lot of organic material, including food, and we have a lot of people that are still going hungry every day. CalRecycle's focus on organic waste reduction is part of the larger state climate strategy for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And that reduction is 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. Organic waste is the largest waste stream in California. Approximately 27 million tons is landfilled every year, and we throw away over 6 million tons of food waste each year. So putting that into context, according to our local food bank here in Monterey County, they serve 1 in 4 residents, and over 50% are children. So that means more than 50,000 children in Monterey County are experiencing food insecurity issues. So we'd like to put that food to good use. So as a whole, Monterey County is working collaboratively to find ways to prevent waste and feed people, not landfills. Our first priority is food recovery and feeding people. Then we want to collect all the food scraps and non-edible food and turn that into compost. So 1383 requires businesses that generate food, such as restaurants and grocery stores, to donate any edible food that is, for whatever reason, no longer sellable or marketable. These requirements include record keeping and collaboration between the food donor and the food recovery entity. But to be clear, the donated food must meet food quality standards. We're not talking about food that was out on a buffet line. We're only talking about food that's safe for human consumption. And so these are the generators required by law to donate edible food. This year, the regulation impacts large grocery stores and food distributors. And then in 2024, the requirements extend to schools, hospitals, large restaurants, and the like. So we're really talking about only the largest generators, but any food generating business that wants to donate food to hungry people is encouraged to do so. We're lucky to have a wonderful and expansive food bank in Monterey County who have been doing wonderful work for years in our communities. However, these new regulations expand requirements that the food bank doesn't typically handle, such as hot prepared food. Think that leftover lasagna tray in an event. So where do those go? How do we get that food to the people that need it? So who could take a large tray and break that up and serve individuals? So with these questions, Monterey County Edible Food Recovery Technical Advisory Committee has been working hard to find outlets and entities to assist in expanding the food recovery network in Monterey County. All of the local jurisdictions, the cities and the county, are required by these new regulations to expand the network, and we're currently in the process of developing our plan, and we'll be putting that into action over the coming years. So the next solution after feeding people is to keep organics out of the landfill, and that leads us to curbside collection. So under the new regulations, all generators must separate food and collect all the food waste in the food waste bin or their green waste cart if they're a small business or a home. So in this new mandate, it's no longer an option for commercial generators to separate food scraps. In 2024, the city or the county will be required to take enforcement, aka impose fines against non-compliant businesses, or the state will fine the city and county for not doing so. Additionally, under the new regulations, the state can impose fines directly on a business that is non-compliant. So businesses that generate large volumes of food waste have or will have a separate collection container for that material. And the containers are different shapes and sizes and colors depending on their need and their hauler. So food scraps can now go into your green cart everywhere in Monterey County. If you have waste service, you can now mix your food scraps with your yard waste. However, expanding this program to residential, we understand that the likelihood of contamination with materials that are not intended for the program will be an ongoing uphill battle. So our main goal is to teach people to do the correct thing the first time. So once those habits have formed, it will be much harder to change them in the future. So as you can see, this compost pile doesn't look very clean. And unfortunately, most of what looks like garbage is actually considered and marketed as compostable material. That's why we've decided not to include any compostable foodware or compostable bags in our program, because we want to ensure that the product that comes out is suitable to go back into our beautiful farmlands. So for more information on what you can do at home, please check out our newly launched residential food scrap page at salinasvalleyrecycles.org. And we have information on where you can pick up a food scraps collection pail if you're in our service area. And what goes into your green cart and tips on how to keep things clean are all found there. And this is a image of what our food pails for your kitchen counters look like. And an important note, the regulations that are in place now focus on removing organics from the landfill. So if you compost at home or you use your garbage disposal a lot to send the food scraps to the wastewater treatment plant, you're not required to stop doing that. One note, if you're on septic, not recommended to put stuff in your garbage disposal, but the main goal is to just divert that material from the landfill. So if you have a method in place or you want to start utilizing compost at home, please do so. So if you're interested in learning about how to compost at home, you can join our last in-person compost workshop at Heart and Nail Soul in Salinas on March 26th. And there will also be a kids craft activity at the same time. But if you can't make that, our website does have a comprehensive video workshop in English and Spanish for both backyard and vermicomposting, as well as all the good information on how to get composting at home. All right, there's Kristen.
Great. Thanks, Jana. So if you're here on the Monterey Peninsula and you're wondering how the program works, it's actually the same exact program that's in the Salinas Valley. We're trying to have a uniform message, whether you're in South Monterey County, Prudendale, or Carmel Valley. So here you can see in the yes column, we'll take all fruits and vegetables, whether they're rotten or good. We prefer to, take your spoiled food. If it's still good and you can donate it, please do. But we'll take your rotten food, your cooked meats and dairy, including bones. We're not accepting raw meat, though. Please do not put raw chicken or raw steak, raw beef, raw pork into the container. Raw materials generate a lot of bacteria, which we don't want ending up in the compost stream. We'll also take coffee filters. And while we're on the topic of coffee and coffee filters, we are advising that tea bags go into the trash because there is such a variety of different types of tea bags. Some use synthetic materials, some have little staples. So we're asking our residents, please throw your tea bags into the trash. But coffee and coffee filters are allowed in the food scraps. You can put your grains, your moldy bread, beans, cheese, dairy, rice, noodles, pizza, donuts. I'm sure donuts aren't making it to the food scrap bin. If you're buying donuts, you're probably eating them. But we just want to mention you can even put, your leftovers that are a day too old into the food scrap container. And that includes your bones, your shellfish, your mussel shells, your clam shells that are shellfish. So what we want to keep out is essentially anything that you cannot eat. So ask yourself the question, can I eat this? If the answer is no, then it goes into the trash. So here in the no column, you'll see we're not accepting plastic bags. Please do not bag your material. It is considered a contaminant. And bio bags are actually also a contaminant because they don't break down in the given time that we use here, or that Keith Day Company uses. So we recommend layering your food scraps with yard waste to essentially reduce the odors. You can also place your food scraps in the freezer until pickup day, and that'll take away the odors. And I know there will be a lot of questions on this that we'll address after the presentation, but we don't want any paper, no glass, no metal, no liquids, no oil, and no raw meat, and no twist ties or rubber bands. Some of those things accidentally get caught sometimes, but please try to keep the trash and recycle out of the food scraps. Here's a flyer that is promoting, how to collect your food scraps. And we also have kitchen pails. If you'd like a free kitchen pail, you can visit our website at mrwmd.org to find out where to find a kitchen pail. They're located at most city halls and some public work locations. I saw a question in the chat, what about loose leaf tea? We will accept loose leaf tea in the food scraps. Great question. If it's loose leaf, we'll take it. Now, I know that was a lot to cover. Maybe just take a breath, okay? And now we're going to talk about recycling, okay? I know that was a lot of information, but I know you guys are hanging in there with us. If you've been to Last Chance Mercantile in the past, you'll recognize this building. It's right next to our household hazardous waste facility. The Last Chance Mercantile is actually now operated by the Veterans Transition Center, which was a more recent change. It's a great place to rescue and purchase reused items at competitive prices. You can drop off material that's in good shape, such as clothing, quality furniture, and decor to the Last Chance Mercantile Monday through Saturday. And when you have an item, sorry, excuse me, just for a sec. When one has an item that might be appropriate for the resale, how should it be presented for collection? That was a question we received in advance. So, for example, jeans, books, electronics, furniture, we just ask that those items are presented in good condition. You can bring clothing in paper bags. I think that's preferred, or a box. And for electronics that are not working or still functional, as long as we can get it out of its container properly, then there shouldn't be any issue. We just ask that you're not bringing us couches to Last Chance Mercantile. Couches are generally not accepted at the Last Chance. So if you have a couch, maybe you'd have a better luck selling that on Facebook Marketplace or giving it away on Craigslist. But Last Chance Mercantile is only interested in really high quality furniture. Here is, again, a map of the district in Marina. And you can see it's adjacent to Monterey One Water. And our facilities include a scale house, an administration building, a shop for equipment, a fueling station, household hazardous waste facility where you can drop off batteries and paint. You can also drop off oversized cardboard. So if you order a big new flat screen TV, or maybe you order some furniture that came in a big cardboard box, you can drop it off for free right next to the Last Chance Mercantile. And then we also host Green Waste Recovery's truck yard where they park their vehicles. They have an office. We have a truck washing station, a CNG fueling station. And then also you can see where the modules of the landfill are, where the trash is buried. So we're in the process of getting ready for the next module, module number 5. And we have about 75 to 100 years lifespan left on this landfill. So a little bit longer the Salinas Valley recycles, but we still want to convey the urgency that landfills are not an option of the future. We need to think about how we can get towards zero waste. And that means recycling and composting just about everything we generate. Here's the Material Recovery Facility, also known as a MRF. This was built in 1996, it was one single conveyor belt that would process all materials on one line. It was, a bit older. We made an upgrade in 2018. It's really fantastic, really state-of-the-art equipment. This facility was built to help comply with Cal Green Construction and Demolition Code, which requires a 65% diversion of all building materials. Additionally, all single stream recyclables from the county are processed here, with the exception of the city of Monterey and Tri-Cities. The facility was built to process and mine recyclables and organics. We don't sort through trash currently. All trash is landfilled directly. So when you throw something in the trash container, nobody is sorting through it at all. Gets landfilled directly. However, this facility was built where we could sort through trash in the future if we choose to do so. So it has a lot of capabilities. We were closed during the pandemic for tours, but we are talking about opening back up for tours. So if that's something the League of Women Voters is interested in the future, we'd love to have you here to take a look up close and personal. This is a slide here that essentially shows you what goes where, what's recyclable. And I think most of you guys know that we take all metal, glass, paper, and plastic. But, the details can really get to us sometimes. What plastics do we accept? We accept plastics number 1, 2, and 5. And at this time, there's no market for black plastics. So if you buy rotisserie chicken, and that's from the grocery store, and it comes with the black plastic bottom, or you buy some baked goods from the bakery and it has a black plastic bottom, that's unfortunately not recyclable right now. And it's all dependent on the markets that are available to us to recycle. How much food residual is too much? You'll see a peanut butter jar with a scrape. And, we really say, as long as you can scrape out most of the contents of your container, that is clean enough for us. It doesn't have to be 100% clean. Just a minimal amount of food will be great. And then in the recycling, we really ask that you do not put any film plastics, such as plastic bags, no trash, of course, no batteries, no electronics, no clothing, no drink pouches, no polystyrene, so styrofoam, no peanuts, and no tires. We see a lot of food come through the MRF, and I think it's a result of people not emptying out their jars. And it's unfortunate, that material can now be composted. So we really ask that you keep it clean and dry as much as, that's reasonable. And if you're concerned about water and the use of water to rinse, always just bust out the spatula to scrape your container. That's always an acceptable way to get your materials clean. This is our team here, and we just wanted to show a picture of some of the baled cardboard and paper. Every recyclable that is processed through our facility is touched by people. So it's not just all robotics and conveyor belts and machinery processing the material. We have a lot of employees that work on keeping the material as clean as possible and prepare it for shipping to be exported either internally in the state of California or internationally. And we just wanted to humanize it. If you are throwing away something in the recycle, just know that somebody is likely touching that material to try to recycle it. So please keep that in mind. And I see the question from Vicky, who takes batteries? We'll get to that question. We have a whole section dedicated to that, Vicky. Okay, so just hang on for a sec. A question I get often is where materials are shipped once they're recycled. What are they made into? Here's a look at where items go, what they're typically made into. So a plastic water bottle is considered a #1 PET plastic. The destination is either in California or Georgia, and the end product is typically carpet and packaging. We have a variety of other materials here, and I'll let you read through a lot of domestic markets, which is great for us. We'd love to encourage the use of domestic markets so that we're not dependent on international recycling markets. We do our best to send the material as local as possible when we can. And I did see that question, what about jar lids? Jar lids are recyclable, so keep throwing those in the recycle can. And I just wanted to mention that Monterey Disposal actually has their own facility located at Ryan Ranch. So if you have Monterey Disposal as your hauler, they actually process their own recyclables, and they have a MRF just like ours. It's fantastic. We're all doing our best to just recycle as much as possible and keep the trash out of the recycling. And I just want to mention, please do not bag your recyclables. It causes a huge strain on our equipment when we have to unbag or break into bags. And if you do have to use a bag, just empty your recyclables directly into the recycle cart loose. You could keep the bag on your recycle bin. And we could talk about that a little bit more when we get to questions, but I'm going to turn it over to Jenna to talk about some of the plastic legislation in the state of California.
Yeah, so we were requested to go over the legislation changes for plastic. So as a whole, there was almost 100 environmental or waste bills in California in the last 2 years. It's a huge increase. Not all of those went anywhere, but of those 100 bills, 20 were passed last year, including 3 that were plastic focused. And there's 8 active plastic bills among the remaining 57 active bills on plastic focus. So the bills that impact plastic and recycling that were passed last year is an environmental advertising bill, which you may have heard about. We're really excited about this. The chasing arrow symbol was created mostly by the oil company to kind of help the recycling feasibility of items, but really the number in it is just the type of plastic, like Kristen's previous slide on where things go. But unfortunately, most of those plastics are not recyclable, especially like 6s and 7s. In our area, we're only recycling 1, 2, and 5. So any other number is not recyclable locally. So now this legislation will require that they cannot use the recycling chasing arrow symbol on anything that's not actually recyclable. So yes, I see clapping, absolutely. Pretty exciting. There's a new beverage container recycling reduction act, which is previously all of the CRV funds that you deposited could only go to actually recycling. This will allow companies to take back material and clean and refill them with those funds. So potentially we'll start seeing things like a reverse vending machine where you put in all your bottles and then they can refill them, which is, long been used in other countries, and hopefully we'll get it here again. One new thing is that streets and highways, they need to be utilizing recycled materials. So whether that's new materials or regrinding the street and repouring in place, that's pretty great. Plastic waste diversion and recycling export. So right now, the diversion requirements, anything that you've bailed up and you put on a ship and you said, I recycled it, now you can only consider it a diversion if it's being recycled and it's meeting the standard. So basically saying we're not going to ship trash to other countries and give ourselves a pat on the back for doing a good job recycling anymore, because we want to actually know that that material is going somewhere good. And then next, bills that are coming and are looking at being adopted. There's some battery bills, which we will talk about more on the concern with batteries, especially all of the embedded battery products. Shoes and cards and everything have batteries now. I saw Mylar balloons with batteries and it just blew my mind. So that's exciting to see some changes with that. More funds for recyclable pilot programs, recycled plastic studies on roadways and incorporating more plastics into the material to see if that extends the life of it. a bill requiring state agencies to increase the recycled purchase of products. And then additionally requiring that plastic carryout bags and plastic packaging need to be at store recycled program. We have that now, but whether or not that's, or this bill will help expand that and can hopefully make a better program out of that. One of the questions we got prior to this was, PBS had a new special on the problems of recycling plastic, and is there any program encouraging replacement of plastics, especially on single-use items? And basically, we want to say, we want to encourage reuse, and so replacing single-use items with recycled content does help give a recycled content market, but it perpetuates the dependency of single-use items. So when products get recycled, they get downcycled typically down the chain. Once you have a single-use item, it's going to be harder to recycle that item. It's a pretty low quality plastic. So we want to see the materials have a long life, so the durability of the use is equal to the material's lifespan. So we want to see recycled products go into things that'll have a longer lifespan. And also we want to see encouragement of reusable items instead of single-use items. So companies that do refill and washing of items like washable utensils, dishware, tableware, etc. All right,
Great.
back to Kristen.
Thanks, Jenna. So now we're going to get into the details of household hazardous waste and what that means in your garage, in your home. So I wanted to highlight safe battery disposal, and it's extremely important because we all have batteries and we all have the power to potentially cause a fire if we do not properly dispose of fires. This is actual footage from our MRF, where people are sorting through recyclables, and there's a blaze that happens from a battery. I'll show it again. And it was terrifying. These workers all of a sudden had a fire in their workplace. Can you imagine there being a fire starting right next to you where you're working? So the proper way to really dispose of batteries is to place them on top of your recycle cart. I wanted to mention first, though, Safe Kids reports that regarding their surrounding of button battery ingestion, every year more than 2,800 kids are treated in emergency rooms for swallowing button batteries. That's one child every 3 hours. The number of serious injuries or deaths caused by button batteries has increased 9-fold in the last decade. We have button batteries everywhere in a lot of our products that we use on an everyday basis. So how do we really recycle these properly and ensure that fires do not occur? If you have haulers, green waste, waste management, Tri-Cities, Monterey Disposal, you can collect your used household batteries in a plastic bag, tape them to the top of your blue recycle cart. Please do not put the batteries directly into the cart. That is what causes the fires. But if you tape them to the top of your cart, a driver on collection day will get out of the cab, remove the plastic bag full of batteries, and collect them in a safe container on their truck, and then dispose of them properly when they're done with their route. We ask that if you have the ability, in the lower bottom left-hand portion of the slide, you can see we're asking you to tape the ends of your batteries because the combustion occurs when the batteries rub up against each other and potentially spark the load. So taping the ends of batteries could potentially save a worker's life. So please limit your quantities to 1 quart. And if you're in the city of Salinas and you have Republic as your hauler for trash, recycle, and yard waste, you can drop off any of your batteries at the following locations. At Salinas Valley Recycles, they have a household hazardous waste facility at the Cesar Chavez Library, the El Gabalon Library, and the John Steinbeck Library. I saw a question earlier about empty pill bottles. Are they recyclable? The answer is yes. But what about the medication that has since expired since your most recent surgery? You want to get it out of the house. You don't want to keep it around. You can drop off your medication at any of these facilities in Salinas, Gonzales, Soledad, Greenfield, King City. You can also reach out to your local police department. They usually have a take back drop off center for safe disposal of medication. And if you do use Sharps, we do have a Sharps collection program for needles, syringes, and lancets in approved containers. So these red containers that you see, um, we're not accepting them from businesses, but if you do have a need or have a family member that uses syringes, we can give you some of these containers to collect them. These do come through our material recovery facility where we accept recyclables, and people put them in plastic bottles because they don't have a safe way to collect them. We really want to avoid the potential of a needle stick. So please reach out to us if you need a container. Now, other types of household hazardous waste include motor oil, if you change your motor oil in your at your home for your vehicles, antifreeze, household cleaners, wood preservatives, paint thinners, antifreeze, auto furniture polish, any sort of chemical, pool and hobby supplies, auto batteries, and then also light bulbs, aerosols, and electronic waste. None of these items should go into your trash cart. We really encourage folks to drop this stuff off. It's usually located in your garage on a shelf. So if you're cleaning out, you have a spring cleanup planned for, this coming weekend, please do not throw it in the trash. Please make the trip out to either a Salinas Valley Recycles location or come visit us in Marina at our household hazardous waste facility, where we'd happily take that off your hand at no charge. So it's another really wonderful free service that is available to all residents in the county, whether you're in the Salinas Valley or you're in the Monterey Peninsula.
Thanks, Kristen. And as mentioned, we have our household hazardous facility in Sun Street, or at our Sun Street facility in Salinas. But just so everyone, we're trying to get the word out that we are moving our HHW and recycling facilities to be co-located at the Madison Lane Transfer Station. But please note, if you visit the Madison Lane Transfer Station after the move, we, Salinas Valley Recycles, will be hosting the HHW and the recycling facility. However, Madison Lane is run and operated by Republic Services, so they're going to be setting rates and running the scale house. So, but come visit us because we'll be moving. And if you haven't seen this before, this is our What Goes Where resource for all things waste in Monterey County. We have a new staff member who's been working really hard to update this and keep up with the requests and the suggestions. So if you haven't used it in a while, check it out. Also, we did get a question before this meeting as what you could share with visitors to our area to help them understand what is recyclable here. And this would be the best resource. They don't have to download an app. There is an app available, but there's also just a tool on the website, whatgoeswhere.info, and just put in the zip code that you're at, and it'll tell you all of the information on where to put what. So now we've gotten a whole lot of info on our facilities, organics, recycling, hazardous household waste, and you might be feeling super overwhelmed, but don't worry. Every little change and decision you make helps reduce our waste and helps ensure that our future generations have fewer mountains of garbage to manage. So if you're interested in zero waste, there's a million websites and influencers and whatnot online for you to look for tools, but just think of, anything you do is a good thing. I know personally, I have pause at the grocery store. Do I buy the bag spinach that's a thin plastic bag, or the tub of spinach that maybe gets cleaned out and sent, on a ship somewhere else to be recycled? I'm genuinely still unsure what the answer to that is, but I just try to do the best options I have and make the swaps that I can make. We also got a question about greenwashing, and really there's no surefire way to recognize greenwashing. That's, making the sustainability claims on a product higher than what they actually are. And so you can ask yourself a few questions. Do you need the item? It doesn't matter what the greenwashing message is. If you don't need it, it doesn't matter. I'm really happy that water bottles are made with recycled content and have fewer plastic than other water bottles, but I don't need a water bottle pretty much anytime. So that doesn't matter. Does it make sense to you? If you think like that is the weirdest green, like, why is that a sustainable claim? Maybe it's a stretch, maybe it doesn't matter. Is the parent company built to profit off of oil extraction? Sure, we see all these Exxon commercials about how wonderful and sustainable they are, but really they're making plastics based on the byproduct of their oil refineries. So they may be selling a great product or saying they're doing something great, but they're also mining a lot of oil. And then is there a better local product? You know, I love my cork floors that I know were made of regenerative wood, but those also weren't made in our backyard. So maybe there's somewhere else that you can find a product that is better. So just ask yourself a few questions, and we're all going to do the best we can every day, and hopefully that'll start adding up. So in that, what will you do to change the world? We like to say, especially when we're working with schools, that we're changing the world one banana peel at a time. So what's going to be your message and your goal moving forward? So thank you. And we are happy to entertain questions. I know we went a little longer than planned, but too much stuff to pack in there. Oh, Tama, you're on mute.
Always unmute when I should be talking. So thank you very much. You answered some of the questions on the way by when you took a little bit longer. And I think I've toured the facility more than once. I think I understand this issue really well, and I learned something today that was very important. So I appreciate it a lot. I thought I might start with some of the questions that have come up in the chat. One that was about a new kind of indication on plastic that I've seen, which says recyclable in a commercial facility. It doesn't have the little chasing arrow on it. How I should be somewhat suspicious of that, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, Jana mentioned there's regulation going into effect that if it has a chasing arrow symbol on it, it has to be recyclable. So, you know, people cannot greenwash anymore, just slapping the recycle chasing arrows triangle on anything. It has to actually be recyclable to have that logo moving forward. The one thing that you'll have to look out for is that while many products are recyclable, here locally in Monterey County, we only accept plastics 1, 2, and 5. And so those are most products. Those are very inclusive of most products sold at the grocery store. So, you know, if you ever have a question when in doubt, visit the website whatgoeswhere.info, and Jana dropped it in the chat so that you can verify if something actually is recyclable here in Monterey County. And the reason it varies from county to county, state to state, is because we all have facilities that are built slightly different, and we all have markets that are slightly different. So your family in the Midwest, they don't recycle because their markets are not the same as we have here being located on the coast. We have easy access to ports where we can ship material around, but they may not have that same access to those recycled markets. So don't be quick to judge people not recycling. It's just that it costs more to recycle in places like that.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I think I'm a recovering wish cycler. So I used to just kind of throw everything that I had any clue I didn't want to put it in the trash, so I would throw it. So I'm learning. I'm recovering from that. But Sharon Miller asked a question along the wish cycling lines. She returns any thin film bags that she gets to the grocery store where they have a collection bin. Is that wish cycling, or does something virtuous actually happen with those bags?
Jana, you want to take that?
Sorry, I was also kind of distracted by a comment. Wish cycling of bags in bags.
At the
That-
grocery
At the
store.
grocery store. I actually don't know because those bags don't get reported to us. We do the reporting for our agency, but because all of the large stores take those bags, they put them on a truck and send them back to their distribution facility. So in this area, mostly that's Tracy, California, and I don't know where they're putting them once they go there. So I do know that all the stores are, you know, collecting bags, they're collecting hangers, they're doing all of that and sending it back to Tracy. Where it goes from there, I'm not sure. I do know that typically if they have a large volume of clean plastic film, they can do something with that. I don't know what the contamination levels look like. I personally I will collect all the really clean stuff. Like if we get a new product that has a bunch of bags, like we got a new barbecue and each piece of it was in a plastic bag. I put all that together because that is the same, you know, single type of plastic without labels, all that. And I did bring that to the store, but I'm not personally recycling all my bread bags that I can't reuse for a different reason anymore because I just don't know that it's actually happening. So sorry, I don't have a good answer on that. The question about recyclable in a commercial facility, I'm thinking that probably that was in relation to compostable at a commercial facility. And if it's the phone case, I'm guessing it's a Pella case, which I have too. So it is compostable. And I put my last one that broke in my worm bin. So I haven't seen it since I turned it, so maybe the worms are eating it. But those are the type of products that we're still not asking for in our facilities because we do see them come through at the end process. And, you know, it'll look like a perfect spoon that says compostable at a commercial facility. And it's like, well, this is a commercial facility and it didn't compost. So that's what we're trying to avoid going in.
Mm-hmm. Great, Janet. Thank you. And I'd like to add to that is that when something is labeled recyclable or compostable, you have to ask yourself, do these rules apply within my local facility? You know, and usually the answer is yes. But for compostable wares that Jana mentioned, like compostable takeout, you know, when you go pick up food from your favorite restaurant, your favorite Italian place, it comes in a plastic clamshell. The clamshell packaging says compostable. We actually here cannot compost that packaging. So we're asking folks, when you have compostable products and you receive them from your favorite places to get food, takeout, that you actually throw those in the trash. We only want food mixed in with the green can. So please, please, please do not put any packaging in the green cart. We're just not there yet with our processing. That might change in the future, but for now, we're saying food only. If you can't eat that clamshell, then we don't want it in the green cart.
And that goes to the paper products as well. So if your container that you take home feels like paper, it's a paper product, paper, food soiled paper. But the problem is you'll notice that the spaghetti is not coming out of the bottom, and there's a reason for that. It's lined with a special material, which is mostly PFAS, which is we've termed as forever chemical. And that is a hazard in the environment. They're finding that in the water long-term, it's not breaking down. It's basically Teflon. So there's a Teflon coating on the inside of that paper. And that's why we're saying we don't want that in our compost as well, because it's not going to break down. And then it's going to be in the soil, or the compost, which our farmers don't want to go put on their soil. So we are saying, you know, the Salinas Valley logo is if it grows, it goes. So if it's something that grew, or if it was something that grew and then was processed into food, yes. But if it's, you know, mechanically changed, like a paper compostable fiber product, it's not something we want to accept because we want to ensure the health of our valley. And
right. Thank you, Jenna. And Beverly asked, any chance those plastic bags can be outlawed? And so California has a plastic bag ban, but you still see a lot of plastic bags that fall outside of those guidelines. So at Safeway or, you know, other grocery stores, they'll have a thicker plastic bags. They call those reusable plastic bags. And then it's a way around the legislation for the plastic bag ban. So we asked, you know, question every time you need a bag. Maybe you bring your own produce bags or you bring your own grocery store bags. I think we've all changed that habit. Maybe 5 years ago that ban came into effect and we kind of pivoted. But sometimes you'll forget a bag, and it's perfectly fine to use one of the grocery store provided bags, but ask yourself, is this recyclable? Should I ask for paper instead, which I can then reuse to bring my donated goods to Last Chance Mercantile or to Goodwill or Salvation Army? Paper bags can be recycled at the end of their life, whereas plastic bags cannot. So it's up to you to make those personal decisions. These are just recommendations at this point.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question about compost. In my own composting at home, I would never put chicken bones, right? I just keep it to the veggie stuff. How is that working in your compost, with all of that variety of food waste?
It's working well. The cooked meat, the cooked dairy or cooked bones, they do break down. All the microorganisms really attack it. So we say bring your bones, throw them in your cooked meat. If you have any raw meat that is spoiled, please throw that in the trash because that attracts bacteria. And as you may be aware, all this compost we're generating goes to some local producers of our food stream in the Salinas Valley. So local vineyards, some agricultural communities use this compost. So whatever you're putting into the food scrap program in your green cart is ending up back into the system of growing our food. So if you don't want to eat plastic, just don't put plastic in. Same with raw meat, same with liquids. And we're trying to get people thinking about this circular nature of compost. And, if we have food waste, it's a rich product that can give back to our future food.
Absolutely. And just to touch on that, the reason that we can take bones and dairy and all the things that we don't want to put in your backyard compost is because our compost facilities meet the health and safety standards. So they heat up to enough temperature to do a pathogen kill. And then before it's sold, it is tested and verified that it can go out, because we know in our backyard composting piles, they can get pretty warm, but they don't necessarily hit that full temperature curve of the growth of bacteria and then the die off to make that a safe product for you then to put out. And also probably you don't have a grinder at your home to grind up the bones. If you throw bones in your compost pile, you're probably still going to have bones in your compost pile. So our material does get ground up and then it meets those standards.
Right. And we got a question from Margie K. Hey, Margie. Cactus and ice plant do not go into the green waste container. And that also goes for Irish brush broom, which is Genista. It's very hard to eradicate. So thank you for mentioning that. Cactus and ice plant, they just don't compost very well. They don't grind up very well. So if you do have cactus and ice plant in your yard that you're removing, please just throw it in the trash. Unfortunately, it's just not something we foresee being able to compost even in the future.
Yeah. I saw a question on the fingernail polish in bottles. Yes, HHWs will take that. It is paint and ink can come in. And then in terms of benchmarks, that's a great question. And we are also trying to figure out from the state how we're going to look at these benchmarks. The interesting thing about this new regulation is that it's a statewide reduction goal. So it's not like we can go to one business and say, cut your garbage by 75%. It's a whole statewide. So we're really looking at programs and making sure that all of the businesses are involved, but we will be monitoring everything that's coming in. We're noticing, that we notice the contamination and all of those things. So as a whole, we need to recycle more and we need to keep our recycling clean and we need to put food scraps in the compost. So I wouldn't say we've met any of our benchmarks, but right now we're just in the ramping up of education phase. Right now it's on the cities and the county and the jurisdictions to do this education and get out there. We're really launching this food scrap program on Earth Day. So there hasn't been a lot of big push for that. And unfortunately, some of the news articles came out and implied that residents had to comply on January 1st. But really, January 1st is for the jurisdictions to get the ball rolling. 2024 is when it's really going to be enforceable for residents. So we have this 2-year time window to get everybody used to these new things and really get the education out. So don't worry too much on that. And what should people do with no food yard waste with food scraps? There's a lot of different options. One thing, I don't have any green waste at my house, and I've been putting all my food scraps in my cart, and I have a very thick crust of coffee grounds built at the bottom of the cart. But I don't really care that my green waste cart has funk in it, because it is a waste cart. Some people have big feelings about that, and you can do lots of different things. We don't want to use any bags, but so a few different options. You can put stuff in a freezer and then dump it out so that it's consolidated and it doesn't have an odor. You can add, one of our staff members uses a 5-gallon bucket that they fill up all week and has a nice fitting lid on it. And then the night of waste collection, dumps that 5-gallon bucket contents into the green cart so that it's not sitting and getting funky for a long time. There's a lot of, variations of things you could do.
You could sprinkle baking soda on top of your food scraps, and that'll reduce the odor. So there's a lot of creative ways you can participate, even if you don't generate green waste, but don't let that be a barrier. It's okay if it's gross, like Jenna said. And if you want to chat with us more, I think our emails are listed in the chat. So you can reach out to us with your questions specifically. And it's been so fun talking with you. And all that we ask is that you go teach a friend, teach a family member everything you learned today, because we want to spread the message of this new program, and participation is essential.
Yeah. I did just see one last question. Just want to let you know, we have these tips that we talked about on our website with the how to do things clean. But if you don't have a kitchen veggie waste, there's a lot of different options. This is what I use. It's an insert that hangs in my garbage bin, because I don't like to have something on the counter. We have somebody that keeps a container with a lid in their sink. We have people that just use a takeout container or a veggie container. Use a bowl to go feed the chickens. There's a lot of different options. Be creative. There's no one right way to do it. You can basically do anything you want. The city of Morgan Hill gave out juice pitchers to everyone instead of supplying kitchen pails, because they figured you can put that in your in your refrigerator and get that material out. So check out our website, check out the district's website. We have a lot of information. We have flyers you can print out and look at and give you good tips, but also feel free to follow us with our newsletter, get in touch with us, and we're here to answer all the questions.
Thanks, Jana.
Thank you so much. We've answered a lot of questions. I'm going to ask one final one though. If you have a thought, we're not talking about composting, we're talking about more knowing that recycled things are recyclable. What do I do if I'm uncertain? I think of, I use what goes where, but when I ask the question of what goes where, it's usually not a common food item like a yogurt cup. It is this random piece of plastic packaging that arrived with some product I bought. So if we're not sure, should it go into our waste?
Yes.
When in doubt, throw it out.
When in doubt, throw it out. I thought we might end with that. When in doubt, throw it out, because I think you're talking to a conscientious group of people who want to do the right thing. And one of the shifts that I learned when I learned more about waste and the impact of my waste on the world is the conscientious thing to do is when in doubt, throw it out.
Right. That's correct. And, if you think about the workers behind the recycle facility, the compost facility, if you think about, would they find a home for this, or would they want to come across this? If the answer is no, then throw it in the trash and keep our workers safe. because that's our biggest priority is making sure we don't have anything dangerous coming through. And if it's a piece of plastic that's, wrapped around something you got from Costco, it's likely going to be trash. So great question. And thank you for your attention today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the effort you put into this, and keep up the good work. I'm looking forward to honest recycling labeling more than you can.
Thank you for a great presentation. And I think that maybe we will see you when we tour. Possibly, I would be very interested in touring now that it's safe to go back to things in person. So perhaps that's something we can put together, Tama.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you guys. Have a
Cheers,
great day.
everyone.
See you next month, and we'll learn about 4TAG and Delray Oaks initiative. Bye, everybody.